The White House ballroom is set to become a monument of corruption in the United States. It's being funded in a way that no extension of the White House, indeed no government building, has ever been funded before. You see, government buildings tend to be funded by congressionally appropriated funds. They're part of a budgetary process where taxpayers' money goes through a deliberative process, considered and weighed against all other government spending priorities, and then that leads to a decision around the amount of fundings that would be appropriate to send to this particular project. It's all transparent, it's all above board, it's all fully debated and discussed, and in the end the funds are awarded and are spent in a way that everybody knows about and is completely above board. That is not happening on this occasion. In fact, it's happening in such an extreme way that it is being set up as a complete funnel for corruption in a way that we've never seen before in US history. So this funnel of corruption actually started in Trump's inauguration. The big tech companies all gave $1 million to Trump's inauguration. It's a big bribe to him to try and get on his side. That was a range of companies: Google, OpenAI, Microsoft, Facebook, Meta, and Apple. As we know, they were all sat in the front row in the inauguration, given prime seats. They'd all paid for the inauguration, of course, which is why they've been given those prime positions. But they got something much deeper and much more useful than that. You see, Google was already experiencing legal action against it for breaching antitrust laws. This was an existential threat to the tech behemoth, and they wanted that to be dropped at any cost. Of course, after having already sat around the table with Trump, having paid for his inauguration, that was conspicuously dropped. Facebook and Meta were referred to by Trump as the enemy of the people. They were also in the courts about illegally harvesting data from their users. But also, on that occasion, after paying for the inauguration, all of that was dropped. Apple were in the crosshairs once the tariffs were implemented, because you see, Apple's business model relies on actually making most of their iPhones in China. So if you impose a tariff on all goods arriving from China, then that tariff will be added to all Apple products, and suddenly the cost of iPhones would have gone through the roof. So they managed to organize secret, hurried meetings in the White House in order to get an exemption from tariffs coming from China, so that Apple products wouldn't be affected in their prices. Again, a nice little windfall from that huge bung that they gave to Trump of $1 million for his inauguration. I say huge bung, it actually wasn't a very huge bung, it's a very small bribe. So for very little investment, they got a major, major return. So they learned from that there is actually a sort of funnel of corruption here that we can use. We give Trump money for things that he wants, and in return, he gives us favors. That is the very definition of corruption. So they get favors, they get access that nobody else can get because they're giving him money. So that conveyor belt had already been established. That sort of quid pro quo system has already been established from the inauguration onwards. And now the ballroom is going to take that to completely new heights. He's spending $250 million on this ballroom and relying entirely on donations from companies like this. So it's not $1 million here, $1 million there. It'll be tens of millions being given by different companies. And do you think they will give that money just for charity? Do you think they will give that money just because they like Donald Trump? Of course not. They are going to expect favors, and every single one of them will receive favors all the way through from that point onwards. This is how corruption occurs, and very often the products of corruption are gleaming buildings like the ballroom that we are going to see added to the White House. That will dwarf the White House itself, actually. It looks like it'll be bigger than the main executive mansion itself.
This is the ballroom Donald Trump plans to build at the White House. If completed, it'll be the largest addition to the building ever.
And this is exactly what corruption looks like. It looks like big gleaming buildings because people and organizations in the system that want to curry favor, that want to become part of the regime, are happy to pay for these things because they basically are buying themselves the government. The government becomes for sale. And that's what leads to all these monuments being built, because the dear leader wants these great monuments to themselves, and that then leads to a whole funnel for corruption. And whenever these tyrannical dictatorial regime falls, these monuments also fall with them as well. One of the best examples of that was actually a museum of corruption that is currently established in Kyiv in Ukraine. I went to it a number of years ago. It's very impressive. You see, there was a time after Ukraine became a democracy when one of their leaders, one of their presidents, started to push the country back into autocracy again. They had moved from autocracy during the Soviet times into democracy, but then one of the leaders, who was funded by Vladimir Putin, was moving the country back into autocracy again and rigging elections. Because the people then revolted, he was overthrown. Ukrainians aren't going to just sit back and let that happen, and they didn't. Once he was overthrown, the palace that he had built with the proceeds of his corruption was then put on show. It was a huge palace. As I say, I've been to see it, and they had all sorts of things like zoos and a golden toilet, and a whole range of really interesting and unique luxuries that most human beings would never even dream of or ever want. And they turned it into and named it the Museum of Corruption, which is a fantastic name. It's a great, wonderful thing to do, to show to the whole public, look, this is what happens when corruption reigns. This is what happens when dictatorial rule is unchecked. And so you're able to see exactly what the proceeds of it were. Maybe, just maybe, one day this will also happen to some of these monuments of corruption that Trump himself is now creating. And maybe one day, we the public, who have had no say in this building, who have no ability to learn about what's really going on under the counter with all of this, can go and find out what's really been happening and see what it's really like inside these monuments of corruption. The first of which is the Trump Ballroom. I hope you like my video. As a psychiatrist who loves politics and economics and philosophy, I love to make videos like this, and you can really help promote this video to other people and get it on your feed more by liking and commenting and subscribing to the video as well. We have a wonderful community of people here who comment and support each other through this very traumatic period of world history that we're going through right now. I also hope you consider becoming a subscriber to the channel, and also subscribing to my e-newsletter. There's a link in the description, and that way we can stay in touch outside the channel, so you can keep abreast of all of the content that I'm making on an ongoing basis. The latest of which actually is my latest book called We the People. Very, very proud of this book. It's actually a novel, a fiction book written by myself and the famous award-winning author T.J. McGregor. Together we wrote a book about what the future might look like. Bit of a dystopian novel, but what might happen if autocracy goes to its next stage, AI predicting the potential end of humanity. I actually made a video about that, it really happened. And how things might pan out in this dystopian world, and actually how a band of committed, passionate, progressive people managed to change the trajectory, and not in the way that you think. It's not just by running a candidate and opposing the autocrat, but actually by deepening the democracy that we have and engaging in a real participatory form of democracy that sort of shifts the needle and gets us back to basics and helps us sort of rebuild our democracy. And that's within the context of a really compelling, gripping story, a bunch of fascinating characters, and I assure you, you will not be able to sort of stop turning the page until you get to the end of the book. That's what all the reviewers have said so far. Lots of people love it, and I hope you can get it. You can get it on Amazon, any of the global Amazon bookstores out there. Please do order your copy of We the People. Just put We the People Russell Razak and you'll be able to find it inside Amazon as well. Also, I hope you consider becoming a member of the channel. You can subscribe to a couple of different membership levels. All members of the channel also get some free ebooks that I produce once a month. You can buy those ebooks too from russellsbooks.com. That's russellsbooks.com, and every month I produce a new ebook on that channel, which is really about, these are the non-fiction books I produce with my team, which is really about how to learn about the world around us and the psychologies of the people who govern us, but also how to learn about ourselves, deepen our own self-awareness in a way that helps us navigate this difficult world we're in right now. So those are sort of self-help books that are produced every month, and if you're a member of the channel, you get a sort of 100% discount on those books every month. Otherwise, you can go to russellsbooks.com, as I say, and buy them anytime you like. I really hope you can become a part of this community, as I say. So this sort of supportive community, validating and helping each other, is really worth being a part of, and I hope you can join us as we all join forces to create a better tomorrow together. Thank you.